The second element, and I know this has had discussion among you and that there are differences of views held by at least some members, but that is that we will be looking at the issue around Fareless Square. First off, I think we all know that Fareless Square is a misnomer because it's not a square any longer. It has the handle that comes out that goes to Lloyd Center along the Max line. But what's different today than has been in the past in terms of services that come September 12th, the Max line, the green and newly to be dedicated onto the Transit Mall as well, the yellow line, will be running the full length of the Transit Mall from Union Station in the north to Portland State in the south. As you can tell by the scatter map that is located in your packets, you can see that the vast majority of boardings on and off are either along the east side Max alignment, that is from Lloyd Center on over to the Steel Bridge, along the Front Avenue where the Max line goes, or along the Transit Mall itself. With the introduction of the Green Line come September 12th, the ability to be able to use for most of that travel along the Transit Mall will be there, combined with, of course, the existing blue and red lines that run on First or Yamhill and Morrison. Yes?
We're looking at this. One of the things that sort of puzzles me a little bit is how do we get these readings and how accurate are they really? I know it's probably an estimate, but when we talk about the number of boardings by stop,
Actually, thank you. It's a story that is very interesting to be able to tell. Not developed by us, but I think actually St. Louis did on their light rail system. There are infrared lighting up in each of the doorways, and they are angled in ways that are able to distinguish between individuals, even if one's walking shoulder to shoulder along with somebody else through that opening. They do count and count quite accurately. We need to be able to be assured of this before we have them installed throughout our system. We tested them and had an actual manual counting of boardings through those same doorways that had the infrared lighting, and they were remarkably accurate. So we are able to tell not only on the bus, you go by the bus, you actually get a automatic read as you go by the fare box, not by putting in the fare, but by the actual count, and on the Max by these infrared lights at the doorways. So they are very accurate readings. They're off by, I'm sure, a few people here and there, and anybody who jumps on and then off at the same stop, of course, that's going to be counted. But short of that, we find these to be very accurate.
And then what value does that play in determining, if you look at this, how many of those boardings are people that are maybe going outside Fareless Square, and how many are staying in and actually utilizing just Fareless Square?
For the purposes of looking at just those who are utilizing Fareless Square, these counts will not tell you that information. We then go out and actually interview people on the vehicles, asking them where do they get on, where are they getting off, are they making, therefore, the trip only within Fareless, or is it really that they're either boarding or deboarding within Fareless, but have started or ending somewhere else? So we combine that to be able to look at this. What this leads us to conclude is that the ability to be able to keep Fareless Square as a concept is very important to a number of entities, particularly the visitor bureaus will say that without a single hotel that is here for conventions, that the ability to easily get around is a very important element. Others will have other reasons of just the convenience of getting up and down the mall and so on. What these numbers tell us, though, is that once the Green Line opens in September, that the ability to have virtually all of the current users of Fareless be able to make it on the train and therefore allow us the ability to say that on the bus side it will only be with the fare, that won't be a part of the fare list, we think makes sense. Why is that important? The reason it is important is that we have, and you can imagine, a crowded bus. People get on, they're in Fareless, they say, I'm riding just in Fareless. Maybe there's 50 people on the bus, a number of people standing, and when we get to the boundary of going outside of Fareless, that operator has to be able to try to remember who got on, said they were only in Fareless, and are they actually now getting off, or are they continuing that ride? And it puts an impossible burden on that operator to be able to try to keep track of that when they're having to keep track of all the other sorts of things that are there. And what our belief is that to be able to make that be operationally better, there are certainly some issues about how many people will take it and pay instead and all those other sorts of things. And therefore, does it raise any additional revenue? There are estimates that it might do some. That, to me, is not the central issue. The central issue is how can we keep the system operating well for people that are either here, living here, using the system, or coming to visit. And we believe that with light rail, now on the transit mall, that will be accomplished. Another item that we find is a little bit troubling to people that use the bus side for rising Fareless. You know, if you get on the number 14, down, say, around the U.S. Bancorp building and expect to get up to Portland State, it all of a sudden turns and goes over the Hawthorne Bridge, and you don't get to where you want to get to. Or if you're on the number 8, going up to Oregon Health Science University, but think you're going all the way up to the transit mall, not so, because it turns likewise. So it does become confusing on the bus side as well. We will be asking for public comment. Again, no action necessary by you today, but to be able to ask for public comment about having the Fareless section of our system be on the rail side only. There are a number of people who have supported this. Some have had some concerns. One specific concern that we will address, and that is for people who are particularly elderly or disabled who are living in the downtown core area but need to be able to move east and west. We believe that we can adapt and develop a special path that will allow them within the current boundaries of Fareless still be able to take that bus with some kind of a photo ID at a very, very nominal cost. And so we believe that we can address the concern that the Downtown Neighborhood Association, that DRAD was concerned about as well. So that's a second part of it, of what we will be taking out to public comment. Again, it requires no action today from you, but I also want to be able to outline that we will be addressing that. We would not expect that if there are changes, that it would not go into effect until January 3rd. That is the first, after the holiday season, when we're really back into a more normal kind of movement of people to and from work and around our community. So those are the two items. Obviously, the big issue is around the relationship of those 2 to 3 minute adjustments on the service side in our real workforce line.